StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the male lack of discipline epidemic. All right, so we are talking about this a little bit more because I've been talking about this a lot over the last few weeks here on this show and in other places, is that a lot of men are slipping. That's what's happening these days. There are a lot of men slipping by not having your shit together. And that's what's been happening a lot recently. And hold on, let me look at something. I'm looking at something I have here in my notes. Okay. So a lot of things we've been talking about lately. We talked about how to be a high value man in episode 3311 and 3312. We talked about the adult immaturity epidemic in episode number 3304. We talked a lot about what's been happening with men. I've been talking about this a lot in my live streams as well. If you don't catch my live streams, or if you want to try to catch them, you can catch them on any streaming platform between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. If that doesn't fit your schedule or it conflicts with your work schedule or your everyday schedule, you can also catch the replays of my live streams on my YouTube channel. There'll be a playlist called Current Events. That's where you can find those. So any topic that has happened recently, anything that's been happening in the news, I've probably talked about it in a live stream. You might not know about it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just look it up on my YouTube channel. But anyway, this male lack of discipline epidemic is something I've been talking about a lot on my lives because there's been things happening in the current times, in the moments, with men falling victim to sexual schemes and scams, men just being very reckless with their seed, aka their reproduction, men being reckless with their reproductive organs and getting caught up in lawsuits and criminal cases and situations. And I talked about this from several different angles, not just with that, but also why Western society is collapsing. The basis of it being the failure of men, not the failure of women and children, because societies collapse and fall based on what men are doing, not what women are doing. How the red pill movement can be good or bad for men. That was episode number 3282. I did a 4-part series on the red pill movement. Why Western society is falling apart. That was episode number 3262. That was also a 4-part series. When I talked about why men need to stop being pussies, that one I need a 5-part series, starting episode number 3224. So I've been talking about this stuff a lot recently. And guess what? We're going to talk about it more here today. And I talked about how men need it. I just gave you that one, talking about men being pussies and stepping into their masculine role. And I talked about this from several other different angles, and today is a different angle, but the title says it all, what we're going to address. And the point is, men are falling short on our job of showing up every single day to do our jobs. As I say, to open the show every single day, the discipline to show up day after day to do the work. And sometimes men don't even know what the work is, therefore you can't possibly be doing it, which makes it perfect as to why men are not showing up nor doing their jobs properly. But hopefully, thankfully, today, I'm going to solve that problem and fill in the gaps that many of you men don't even know exist. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is the male lack of discipline epidemic. Number 1, doing the shit that you know you are supposed to do when and how it is supposed to be done. This is where men are coming up short. Should I read that one again? Doing the shit that you are supposed to be doing when and how it is supposed to be done. You also include where and why it's supposed to be done. A simple yet often overlooked point. What you are supposed to be doing when it is supposed to be done, on top of how, on top of knowing why, and supposed to. That's based on you setting your plans and your goals up from the beginning. The number one talisman of being success is having a definite chief aim, a definite aim or purpose in life, as stated by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich and many others. It's having a goal, having a purpose, knowing where you are going, having a destination. Any of you use Google Maps when you get in your car? What do you got to plug in for Google Maps to work? You got to tell it where you're going. Where do you want to go? If you don't know where you want to go, then it doesn't matter which direction you take. As the Cheshire Cat told to Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. Hopefully I'm not getting the names and characters messed up, but you get the point. You don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter where you go. So doing what you're supposed to do means you got to know what supposed to is. What is supposed to for you? If supposed to is you're going to launch a podcast, eventually you got to turn the mic on and record something. If supposed to is you're going to have a blog, eventually you got to sit down at the computer and type something. If you're supposed to have a sales funnel, eventually you'll come up with a product. All right, whatever you're supposed to be doing, you must do something to go in that direction. You're supposed to be an athlete. Eventually you got to go to the gym and work out. So are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Only you know what that supposed to is. And then once you do know, are you doing it? Yes or no? This is a binary, folks. We need absolutes, not maybes. All right, successful people operate by absolutes. If you never heard me talk about that, guess what I did? Episode number 2349. You need absolutes, not maybes. What does that mean? That means binaries, yes or no. Not somewhat, not a little bit, maybe not as much as I'm supposed to. Those are maybes. We need absolutes, yes or no. Why people don't like operating by absolutes is because often they don't like the answer of that absolute, which is often no. The thing is that no holds you accountable. And again, a lot of people don't want to be held accountable. So this is a man's ultimate responsibility, by the way. Every man listening to this, this is your ultimate responsibility. Every woman out there, you have a young man in your life who does not have male influence in his life or strong male influence. Go ahead and listen to this episode. He might not want to listen to every episode of this show, depending on your discretion, but he should listen to every episode of the show. He should listen to every episode of the show. If he's over the age of 15, I ain't talking about nothing that he ain't going to find out one way or another anyway. He might as well get it from me so I can give it to him straight. But this is a man's ultimate responsibility. Doing what you're supposed to do, when, how, where, and why you're supposed to do it. Period. Some men are listening to this, and maybe young males on their way to becoming men listening to this, and may think that this sounds like a not so great reality of your future. It's almost as if some people may listen to this and say, well, Dre, damn, that sounds like I'm always going to be working, that I'm always going to be responsible for something. I'm always going to have to get something done or fix something, and I'll never really have time to relax or have fun, whatever that means to you. If that's the way you see it, good, because that's exactly what it is. So you did not misread the situation. You read it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. Any man listening to this, that's exactly what it is that you will always have something to do. You will always have a responsibility. You are really not going to have time to relax and have fun all the time. That's not it. Okay. As a man, I think I did an episode about this, but let me check and make sure. It was episode number. Let me make sure I have actually talked about this. I thought I did. It was episode number. No, that's not the way where is it? I got to remember how I language it. Sometimes I think I language something one way, but I title it differently. I'll come back to that in a minute. But I'll say what I want to say right here. As a man, it is not your aim to have fun or to relax, nor even to be happy. And episode 582, being motivated does not require fun, joy, or happiness. Episode number, here it is. Episode number 3012. Happiness is not the goal. Happiness is not the goal. I'm talking specifically to the men when I say that. Now, if you're a woman, happiness can be your goal, depending on the way your life is set up. But if you're a man, happiness is not your goal. I don't care how your life is set up. Your goal is not to be happy. Or your goal as a man is to be effective. Your role as a man is to be effective, productive, and a source of provision for the women and children around you. That's what makes you a leader. A leader is responsible for being effective and productive and to provide for the women and children and subordinates around you. That's what makes you a leader. Fun and happiness are for the women and the children. You may get moments of fun and happiness. I'm not saying life is never fun and never happy. It's fun for me to record this show, but I'm also working. I'm doing something effective, productive, and something that provides to people, something that helps make them better. And at the same time, I have fun doing it. That's the way it works for a man. You're doing something that's effective, productive, and producing something valuable for others. And you learn to have fun in the process of doing that, not just having fun for the sake of having fun. So having fun for the sake of having fun for me would be like going to the beach and laying in the sand while the waves of the ocean come and come in and out on the shore of the beach. All right, that's just having fun for the sake of having fun. I'm not doing anything effective, productive, or producing anything valuable for anyone else while I'm doing it. I generally don't even enjoy doing shit like that, which is why I don't do it. I live in South Beach, literally 3 blocks away from the beach. How many times did I actually go to the beach? Maybe like 4. I didn't really go to the beach that often. If I go to the beach these days, is with a child of mine going to the beach because they want to go to the beach. So I consider that effective and productive because it's quality time with my child. But I would never just go to the beach on my own volition because that's just fun for the sake of fun. It's not interesting to me. I actually feel like I'm missing out because I'm not doing something that could be, adding value to the marketplace and the process. And that's not some sickness. It doesn't mean something's wrong with me. That's exactly what a man's supposed to do. Period. That's exactly what a man's supposed to do. Now, if you're a young child under the age of 18, then this doesn't yet apply to you, but at some point it will. And if you're a retiree or over the age of, who knows, whatever age you retired, and you're just on the downswing and you're not into the productive, effective thing anymore, then this doesn't apply to you either. But everybody else, it applies to you if you're a man. You are not here to be happy. You're here to be productive and effective. And you have fun being productive and effective. That's the fun part. The fun part is seeing the women and children around you have fun and not have a care in the world because you, the man, took care of everything. So they ain't got to worry about it. That's your job. You don't get out of bed every day thinking, hey, how do I have fun today? How can I be happy today? Now, you're here to produce. That's it. And you have fun because you're productive. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the male lack of discipline epidemic that we are dealing with in society. Number 2, you must know when the job is done and not overdo it or do it too much. This is part of your discipline. See, some people misconstrue the concept of discipline and think it means you just have to do things all the time. And you are going to be doing things a lot. But you also got to know when to stop doing one thing and maybe move on to the next thing. When the job is done and when to move on to the next job. What is the job and how do you know that it's done? You got to know when the job is done so that you know when you can stop doing it. All right? Discipline is just as much about what you don't do as it is what you are doing or are willing to do or will do. So while some men, I'll say most men, have the general problem of not doing enough and being too slow and completely ineffective in their behaviors, I'll say most men have that problem. They don't do enough, you're too slow, and you're ineffective. Meaning you don't even know what the desired outcome is, therefore it's impossible for you to be effective. Because being effective means you're doing the thing that makes the most impact. But if you don't know what makes the most impact, it's impossible for you to be effective, at least not intentionally. You might be effective by accident, but you won't be over the long term because you don't know what you're doing. You have no aim. The other side of lack of discipline in men is men who go overboard and do too much of a thing that they shouldn't be doing too much of, or any amount of a thing that they should never have partaken in the first place. We talked about this a few days ago when I told you why an ambitious man needs to be monogamous. You're doing too much of a thing that you should have never been doing in the first place, and it's hurting you from achieving your goal. Again, if you're ambitious, there is a clear purpose, and I doubt your purpose is have sex with as many women as possible, even though it may be enjoyable. Again, what I just tell you, happiness and fun are not the aim. The aim is effectiveness. Everything has a cost, folks. I understand as a man. All right, there's a cost to giving one up to get the other. Trust me, I understand. Again, but what are you? Are you ambitious or are you not? It's not no right or wrong answer to the question. Just answer the question. Which one are you? So again, doing things you should never partake in the first place or doing too much of a thing. This can come in the form of things such as sex, drugs, alcohol, any other indulgence that may be fine in moderation, but can become a serious problem if and when abused. Most things, if you use too much of it, it can become a problem. Again, everything has a cost. My favorite book of all time is Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Everyone should read that book. Even if you're not interested in being a powerful person, whatever you think that means, you need to understand it because other people will use the tools in that book against you if you don't know how to defend yourself from those tools. So use it. You can read that book as a defensive tool or as an offensive tool. If you want to know my suggestion, I suggest you read it as both because you need to know how to use every tool in that book. You also need to know how to defend against others using it against you. That's the way life works in general. It's two sides of the floor. In sports is offense and defense. As they say, defense wins championships. So in Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, he talks about planning all the way to the end. That's one of the 48 laws. One of the 48 Laws of Power is planning all the way to the end. This is the concept of knowing when the job is done and stopping because the job is done, not going too far and overstretching your resources, spreading yourself thin, as we call it. Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the greatest generals of all time. You know what was Napoleon's downfall? His downfall was that he got too greedy and too ambitious. Napoleon was kicking everybody's ass until his eyes got bigger than his stomach, metaphorically speaking. And he tried to bite off more than he could chew. He spread his resources thin. He left himself vulnerable, and eventually he was defeated. That's how he lost. He lost because he went too far. Not because somebody outsmarted him and beat him at his own game, because he started playing too much of the same game to the point that he made himself vulnerable, and all the enemies he had made pounced on him, attacked him, and took him out. That's how he lost. because he did too much. If you don't know the story of Napoleon, read up on him. That's how it happened. All right, one of the 5 forms of investment is being focused. Focus is one of the 5 forms of investment. And when you are focused, focus does not mean you just keep working until you collapse. Focus means you know when the job is done and you stop. As they say with a good speaker, anyone who wants to be a public speaker, professional speaker, here's the 3 jobs of a good speaker. Number 1, get up on the stage. Number 2, say what you were there to say. And number 3, stop talking. 1, 2, 3. Get on the stage, number 1. Number 2, say what you came to say. Number 3, stop talking and sit down. Those are the 3 rules of being a good public speaker. Now, you see how I just stopped when I was finished saying what I had to say? Don't go past your mark. Wise man knows to not go past his mark. A disciplined man knows when to not go past his mark. Going too far will get you hurt. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the male lack of discipline epidemic. Number 3, focus on being accurate more than being right. I talked about this in detail in episode number 2167, being right versus being accurate. Many of you think they're the same thing. They are not the same thing. Let me explain to you the difference. Being right is about serving your ego and what makes you feel good or feel superior to others based on the fact that you are able to push your perspective or idea or opinion over the top of others' opinions. That's what being right is about. If you see 2 people arguing, both of them are trying to be right. I'm trying to make my point, you're trying to make your point, and we just keep throwing points back and forth at each other, kind of like a tennis match, trying to win the conversation by I'm making a better point than you're making. Any argument is a form of 2 people trying to be right. Usually, actually, let me not say any argument. Many arguments are based on 2 people both trying to be right. That's how arguments happen. And that's how they continue, because both people are trying to be right. If you get 2 really smart people, on a level of being able to just argumentation skills and making points and throwing facts, quote unquote, out there, then this could be a very entertaining and extended argument. You get 2 really smart and articulate people going back and forth, both trying to be right. It can be very entertaining to watch, but is it productive? No, it's not. On the other hand, what does it mean to be accurate? Being accurate is about what actually achieves the goal, because accuracy is measurable, because accuracy is based on what helps us achieve the outcome. That's what accurate means. What is going to help me or us achieve the desired outcome? When the desired outcome is clearly stated, then everyone needs to make sure that whatever they add to the conversation is based on achieving the goal. If the goal is not clearly stated, then you get a whole bunch of people trying to be right, because everyone has their own aim and their own way of going about things. But if we all are clear, this is the goal, then everyone knows that even if you have certain opinions, how does your opinion help us achieve the goal? If you can't answer the question, then your opinion is not useful to the conversation. That's why it's clear. That's why it needs to be very clear. Where are we going? On a sports team, for example, the coach's job, or whoever's in charge, the best player or the coach, whoever, sets the target. This is what we're aiming to do as a team. I need everybody on the team, even though you may have some personal ambitions and personal goals, everyone on the team needs to be directing your energy and your focus towards this goal. If your energy and focus is not directed towards this goal, in the sports world they call that having conflicting agendas. This happens in any kind of political or bureaucratic space, and that is anywhere where there are more than 2 people. You're going to get this. If you have people with agendas that go against the grain of what the team has stated they're trying to do, this is when you get internal conflicts. This is when you get politics. This is when you get issues. In the sports world, you have a player who has an agenda that goes against what the team is trying to achieve. This player is often noted as a cancer. So it's something on the inside that destroys the team from the inside out. And you got to get rid of the cancer. You got to cut the cancer off. You'll get the cancer out of there, and then a very good team can underachieve because you have people with conflicting agendas in the organization. This happens in the corporate world as well, happens in governments, happens in any place where there are multiple people. Are we focused on being accurate, i.e. achieving the stated goal, or are we focused on being right, i.e. doing what serves you? A disciplined man is always focused on accuracy, not rightness, if that's even a word. Disciplined man is always focused on accuracy, not being right. What makes you accurate? Again, what's the goal? You must have an answer to that question. If you can't answer the question, then we don't know what's accurate. Accuracy requires a stated goal. Does everybody understand that? Accuracy requires a stated goal. If there's no stated goal, it's impossible to be accurate. If you're a sports coach, you have a football team, and you say our goal is to make the playoffs, that's a stated goal. So anything any player does that is not directed towards helping the team make the playoffs, that player is going against the grain of what the team needs to do. And on that basis, you can hold your player accountable. Do you understand? Because you can say to the player, hey, what's the goal here? And the player's going to say, oh, it's to make the playoffs. Because everybody should know what the goal is. On any team, the leader should make sure everybody knows what the goal is. And the player says the goal is to make the playoffs, coach. And then you say to the player, okay, so you doing what you just did yesterday. How is that helping us make the playoffs? And the player probably can't answer the question. Then you can say to the player, okay, so you understand why you're receiving a punishment for what you did, right? Because you're not helping us achieve the goal. Do you understand, Mr. Player? Yes? Okay, now here's your punishment. Now go do it. You have the standing upon which to do that as long as everybody's clear on the goal. Now, if people are unclear on the goal, now you don't have a leg to stand on as the leader. And that's your responsibility. As a man, you are the leader of yourself. So when you're looking in the mirror, you got to ask yourself, is what I'm doing today helping me achieve the goal? Yes or no? If you don't know what the goal is, you can't answer the question. And a lot of men lack discipline because you simply have never answered the question. That's the problem. When you're focused on being accurate and about what achieves the goal, it doesn't matter whose idea gets there or who gets the bulk of the credit. Because anytime you're in a disagreement, most of the time, when you're in a disagreement with another person, somebody's trying to be right. If everybody can agree that the goal is not for me to be right or for you to be right, but for what's going to best help us and help the group achieve the outcome, then you can focus on accuracy. Accuracy is about what will help us get to where we want to go, not about what you want to do or what somebody involved in the situation personally wants. When the Chicago Bulls, back in the day, when they had that great championship team with Michael Jordan, there's a story. Phil Jackson would go around the locker room. Before the season, he would ask every player, what are your goals for the season? And different players would say different things. Certain player would say, I want to get a new contract. Another player would say, I want to make the All-Star game. Another player would say, I want to score a certain amount of points per game. Another player would say, I want to earn a certain amount of playing time. It would get around to Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan would say, I don't have any personal goals. My only goal is to win the championship. And everybody in this locker room is going to follow my lead. He was setting the tone for the whole team. Because there were a bunch of other agendas. Other people had different agendas, maybe not conflicting, but the agendas were not about the main thing. Michael Jordan made sure everyone knew what the main thing was. The main thing is we're going to win the championship. And because he was the leader and because he was the best player, he had the gravitas to make that statement and everybody had to listen to him. Now, if the 12th man on the team said that, it wouldn't carry the same weight. But when the best player says it, it carries a whole lot of weight. And everybody followed his lead, and all you know who Michael Jordan is. Okay. So, discipline is about accuracy, not about rightness. Being disciplined is not about being right. It's about being accurate. And that means you are serving your stated goals, which are clear, you know what they are, before you even begin your actions. Rather than trying to serve your ego and your fleeting momentary desires, which men, we have a few of them. Women too, but I'm talking about men today. Let's recap today's class, which is the male lack of discipline epidemic. Again, I've talked about this from several different angles. Today, I'm talking about it from another one. Number one, doing the shit that you know you are supposed to do, when it's supposed to be done, how, why, and where it's supposed to be done. That is a male's job. What are you supposed to be doing, and are you actually following through on it? A man who is strongly disciplined and strongly locked in on his purpose is very attractive to a woman. Number two, knowing when the job is done and not overdoing it or doing too much or doing things you ain't supposed to be doing in the first place. A man knows when to stop. A man knows exactly what his goal is. And when you are done, you stop doing what you're doing. You don't go too far. It's a lack of discipline that causes men to go too far. Number three, being accurate more than being right. Again, accuracy is about achieving the stated goal. Being right is about serving your ego. Which one are you trying to be? A man understands that accuracy is the main thing. It is not about being right. You may be right on certain things in the process, but ultimately, if you had to choose between being right and being accurate, a man, a disciplined man, always chooses discipline. And that discipline is reflected in accuracy, what achieves the goal. Because the more goals you achieve, the more flexibility you have for everything else that you want. All that said, folks, you want to step your discipline up. You want to make sure you have a clear plan. You have a clear strategy and a clear system to achieve that outcome over and over and over again, with some direct coaching, accountability for full implementation of all of this stuff that we're talking about and more for your business. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, have me as your direct coach, and let's get to it. Work on your game. Dre all